welcome. If you haven't done so already, say hello in the comments so I know who's here. I just thought tonight would be a great opportunity for us to kind of come together and do a bit of a reset. I always feel Sundays are the threshold, if you would, between the week we just finished up and before we start our new week here. Sorry, there's a glare, and I apologize for that. So, just a few notes. So, nothing too structured tonight. Just wanted to check in and see how everybody's doing. I think there's 11 days left before Christmas, and I believe Hanukkah starts today. So, a good opportunity to just come in and, I guess, pause a little bit and just build some community. And I was watching a movie the other night, and they said something in it, and it really got me thinking. They said something along the lines, you cannot give something to somebody that you're not willing to give yourself. And I really felt that was somewhat remarkable, especially this time of year. This time of year, we're very focused on gift giving and what we can do, for the people we love, what we can do for charities, what we can do for our friends. Do you ever stop and think what you can do and give to yourself? And that could just be, a moment of silence. That could be checking in at the beginning of every day or at the end of every day. What do you give to yourself to kind of help you just come back to your center, back to calm, especially when, maybe the weeks are stressful. And if you're trying to balance both your family and your work, and obviously the holiday season. The holiday season can be extremely fun. There could be a lot of activities, a lot of different parties, get-togethers, connecting with maybe family members you haven't seen in a while. But if we're honest, right, it can also be very stressful, another to-do. And even though a part of you wants to do it, sometimes I think there's a part of us that just wants to kind of step back, maybe in the silence a little bit, and maybe not run around so much. So like I said, a gift. What can you give yourself? What's a gift that you can do for yourself this week as we're starting the new week? Is it maybe the gift of exercise every day? Just going out to do a small walk. It doesn't have to be a major thing, right? Just put your sneakers on and go. Doesn't even have to be a destination. I think somebody said once that the best excursions, if you would, are when you don't have a destination. You're just out either driving. Well, why not in this case just put your sneakers on and go out for a walk? If you have trails behind you, we're fortunate we have trails right behind my house. But go to a local park and just walk, especially if you're in an area that has good weather. And if you're in an area that maybe the weather isn't so good, that's still okay. Go out, do some snowshoeing, or I guess even take a drive if the weather, you can't get out and walk if it's too cold. It's been pretty cold here lately. I think tomorrow it's supposed to be below zero again. So, but there's still ways to get outside and kind of de-stress like that. Hi, Scott and Mrs. Escaping the Suburbs. I'm glad you could join us. So just a couple ideas on how we can sort of rest and reset. Sundays I always feel are a bit of a threshold, if you would, leaving the old week behind and stepping into the new week. And I had talked about what can we give ourselves as a gift this week. I recently had heard a comment, something along the lines that you can't give a gift to somebody that you're not willing to give yourself. Now, obviously, those are, um, more, I guess, internal type of gifts, right? I think they were talking about love, or they were talking about compassion. We're so quick to give it to everybody else, but not to ourselves. And I think if you ever stopped and thought about the way you talk to yourself, would you talk to a friend like that? And I think that's one of the things we need to start remembering is we need to talk to ourselves as if we were talking to a good friend. Because you know what? You are the best friend you're going to ever have. You're a friend that's never going to leave you. So just what can you give yourself for a gift this week? Maybe it's some self-care. I had mentioned a walk. Maybe it's actually taking 30 minutes at the end of every day and actually diving into a book. When's the last time you've actually read, really just sat down and read? And I read a lot of nonfiction, but when I do read a story, a fiction, I absolutely love it. And I always think, why don't I do this more? Especially if I can get into a series and it gives the author time to build up the characters and what. I love it. And sometimes I don't want the series to end because you kind of come attached to the characters in the book. But I guess I'm talking to Lori right now too. I got to remember to do that more, but maybe find time to read this week. Maybe pick up a holiday book and, just get lost in a story if that's your thing. Or maybe taking 5 minutes and just journal. I know a lot of people, I shouldn't say this, but sometimes I think people don't want to journal. And I'm not sure why. I love journaling because then you can take I don't know. There's so much insight you get from journaling, especially if you open up a blank page of your journal. And maybe I'm the only one that feels like this, but you open up to a blank page and you can just write and design anything you want. And the best thing to do is just set a timer, 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes, and just write. Don't think about it. Don't think about what I should write, what should come next. Give it no thought, just write. And sometimes maybe it'll be nonsensical, but more times than not, I think you're going to see some things that maybe have been trying to get your attention. So that's something you can certainly do. And over the next couple of weeks, I also want to talk about going into the new year and setting our intentions, because I firmly believe that you can restart and set goals any time of the year. I am not necessarily that January person. I know a lot of people are. And I guess the way I like to think of January is like wet cement, right? Have you ever done a wet cement, maybe done one of those stepping stones with your children and your grandchildren, and you put their handprint into it? That's sort of what January is like, right? January is sort of like that wet cement that you can kind of put your goals and whatnot. But we'll talk about that more. But maybe start giving some thought to that. Maybe that's also what you put in your journal. Hi, CL. Merry Christmas to you. And, some of the other things that we can do to honor ourselves this week and kind of reset for the week, right, is, oh, sorry, I just lost my, okay, so maybe take yourself out on a date this week. And Scott, I suggest you take Mrs. Escaping the Suburbs out on a date this week. And it could be a lunch date or a morning date or maybe just a walk after dinner, and or take yourself out on a date. When's the last time you've actually gone for a cup of coffee by yourself or for a walk by yourself without a camera, just you and your thoughts? And maybe just have a conversation, even with God. So these are some of the things. Let me ask, what are some things that you folks do, if you could put in the comments, when you're trying to, I guess, reset, if you would, or if you've had a stressful day? What is something that you would go to do? How do you decompress? How do you start your week? Share some ideas. And if you do go out for, whether it's a walk, a drive, go have a cup of coffee, I want you to notice 3 things while you're out and just get lost in that moment. Whether it's, maybe the way a mother, comes in with her child, or maybe the way somebody's walking their dog. Just notice. And maybe also send them some positive energy, send them some love. Because I think everybody, even though it's a really special time of the year, whether you're a young parent or not, I think we all just need it, just send love, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Send love to somebody. They don't need to know it. Just send it their way. Because I think what we all need to understand is we're all connected, right? We're all connected. And one of the things my mentor says all the time is that we're someone. We're some of the one. And I think we need to remember that we are all connected. Now, sometimes I wish I weren't connected to some of the people, but that's just the cynical part of me. I need to remind myself all the time that we are connected. Hi, Granny. I'm glad you could make it just for a few minutes. And I saw that beautiful gingerbread house that you and your granddaughter made. That's very sweet. What a great memory. Those are the things that she's going to cherish. So, do you actually eat your gingerbread houses? Or are those just for, and actually, Scott, I wanted, and I never got the opportunity to reach out, but I was trying to figure out how to share my screen during a live. And I did ask chat, and I tried, and I'm still doing something wrong because I set up a new scene and I did screen share, but it still comes out black. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong. But I took a video of this amazing gingerbread house at one of our local farms this week, and I wanted to share it with you folks. Because that's one of the things I do when I want to go decompress is I'll go to this local farm and just, I guess, get lost in all the Christmas stuff that they have there. And they always have these great gingerbread houses, giant gingerbread houses. And I'm like, you know what? I want to share this on Sunday, and I couldn't figure out how to share my screen. So I might have to do a shorts or something so that I can share it, because it was pretty impressive. Thank you. Yeah, I believe I have your email address, so I will reach out this week for sure. And then you tell me, I'm pretty flexible, so you tell me what your availability is, and I can work around that. And that might have even been one of the things that Rob showed in his training. I've gotten through a good portion of the videos. I certainly haven't gotten through them all. But he probably shows how to share your screen. So I could probably even go through his videos and figure out how to do it. But when you ask chat something, they always just tell you how brilliant you are and it's not your fault. And I'm like, well, it sort of is if I can't do it. But anyways. So, like I said, just notice, send kindness, send love. And maybe just, I don't know if anybody has an Apple Watch, but I have this Apple Watch, and I don't know how often it is. It's a few times a day. It'll actually vibrate and it'll tell you to just breathe deep. And you don't need a watch to do that. Maybe you just, put a Post-it note on your screen, and at 3 o'clock, just pause, take a few deep breaths. It really is, it really is a way to de-stress when you breathe deep. Because I've told my kids so many times that, especially when they'd get nervous about going into finals or an interview, I'm telling them, 10 deep breaths, breathe in, you hold it for the same amount of time, and then you exhale for double the time. And it's just magic. It literally is magic. But you can do that. Thank you, Scott. So, has anybody actually started thinking about the new year? And does anybody create goals for the new year? I mean, I don't want to get too far into that here because I wanted this really just to be a time to chill and reset with no homework. But is anybody a January person where they set goals? Drop it in the comments if you do. Okay, so the Fitbit also has that feature about to breathe. Yeah, it'll buzz and it'll say, breathe for 1 minute, and they try and gamify everything. I don't know if anybody's ever noticed that, because you get points, if you actually do it and you push the button and everything. Everything seems to be a game. It seems to work. So I guess that's one way to get people to participate. So any January folks who set goals, and I apologize if you're typing it. And that's another question, Scott. Do you have your YouTube comments open? Because chat told me I should not have YouTube comments open at the same time that Ecamm is open. Hey, Mike. Welcome. Actually excited that you could join. We're talking about setting goals, Mike. Are you a January person where you set goals? And I think, so Scott, you don't believe in setting goals, creating systems and habits. Have you, hold on, let me get this. Have you read Atomic Habits by James Clear? Because he's a big proponent of setting systems. And I don't know if you follow Think Media at all. I know Sean Cannell is also big in promoting systems. So no goals. Yeah, I was saying, Mike, before you joined that, I know a lot of people set goals in January, which I'm not a firm believer in setting them in January, because honestly, if you're trying to accomplish something, I feel you should just start any time of the year. No reason to start in January. And also, why start in January if by the end of January, I believe 90% of the people who actually set goals, actually it's before the end of January, I believe it's in 14 days is the statistic, that they've already given up on their goals. So why go through that disappointment? I just wouldn't do that. So Scott, you mentioned, you have not read that? Well, since you're into systems, I think you would like it. James Clear, Atomic Habits. Or I don't know if you listen to audiobooks. I listen to audiobooks more than I actually sit down and read, because I can put them on while I'm walking or running or whatnot, or driving. I drive up to the lake a couple times a week, and that's a 90-minute drive both directions, so a lot of time in the car. I love listening to my favorite Christmas songs and just sit and look at the light on the tree after everyone has gone to bed. I am with you, Granny. And so let me ask this. Do you keep your tree lights on throughout the whole season? We turn our lights on whenever we decorate our tree. We turn our lights on, and the lights don't go off until the day after Christmas, and then we shut them off. We're one of those families that take our Christmas tree down the day after Christmas. Don't send any hate if you folks aren't. I know a lot of people always look at me like, Lori, that's awful, but that's just, we've always done it that way. We put it up Thanksgiving weekend, and it comes down the day after Christmas. So, and I think it's because my son's birthday is, we've always done his birthday on New Year's Eve. And so it was just time. I always felt it was just time to transition from Christmas to his birthday. So we've always done it right after Christmas. So let me know, does anybody else keep their Christmas lights on all season? Or do you turn them off at night? Yes. Sean is great. Sean was my my first mentor, if you would. He still is. I listen to his podcast all the time. But I think he's the one that inspired me to start a YouTube channel. And I actually went to I don't remember what it was called, but a function that they had out in Vegas a couple years ago was my first introduction, and it was pretty impressive. So definitely motivated me. And they had some great speakers there. They had Cody Sanchez, don't know if you've heard of her, and they had, oh my goodness, I am at a loss. Who was the guy that you said the other day, Scott, that I should be on his show? Oh my goodness. Anyways, they had him speaking at that, and he was pretty impressive. He was really funny, actually. So he was good to see. It's going to come to me, and I'll just blurt out his name. But am I still live? My screen just completely changed. Yes. Dave Ramsey. Did I lose you guys for a minute? Oh, well, I don't know. Hopefully you're still there. The whole screen just changed on me. Thanks, Mike. Yes, you are live. Yeah, no, the whole screen, my eCam comes up and it's on the screen, and you have all these different windows around the primary screen, and everything just disappeared. It literally disappeared. So it's kind of like whatever I did last week to make my video come down off of YouTube and get deleted. I got to be careful about pushing buttons. Driving and Dives. Do you watch that show, Granny? My husband loves that show. He's actually done a couple places up here along the coast. Good, we didn't. Okay, thank you, folks. I don't know what happened. All right, so we talked about reflection and self-kindness and letting go and goals. And actually, I think, and I had talked about not being so hard on ourselves. And I was thinking about this. all last week, and I think it started with Rob's live last week when somebody had commented that, you know, women have it tougher than the men. And I don't know if I agree or disagree. I think there's pros and cons every way. But then I also hear how people are very fearful of, you know, they won't start YouTube, or they're very fearful of going live because, I mean, ultimately they're afraid of being judged, I think it was. And, you know, I think I was actually going to do a video on it, that I think we need to stop looking to other people to complete ourselves. I don't think we need other people to make us feel whole. And I just got to think about how to say it in such a way that I can gently get the point across, without sounding too preachy or whatnot. But your last video you did, Scott, about being afraid and conquering your fear, I really liked it. I have not gotten to see behind the scenes yet, but it is on my list to do. So, but I really, and you made a good point. You know, I liked how you know, took that step forward to, I don't know what you call it, the ravine there or wherever it was. And isn't that the truth, though? I mean, sometimes I think you and I say a lot of the same things, but we say it in different ways. And I sometimes really like the way you say it, very sensical. But isn't it the truth that you take a step towards it? So it's taking a step towards your fear. And it's almost like it kind of makes it poof and go away, right? It sort of runs, you know, runs away from you. So that was a good video. I watch it when my husband asks me to come to Florida a lot. I'm sorry, Granny, I don't remember what question I was asking. I feel like I'm behind here. And I know Rob said it's only like 15 seconds. It seems a lot longer than 15 seconds, but maybe. The behind the scenes video on that I was struggling on that one. Okay, I'll have to watch it. Struggling in a funny way, struggling because you were scared and didn't want to do it way. I'll just have to go watch it. I know one of the ones you just recently did behind the scenes was, you actually made me laugh. So that was good. I thought I was the only one that repeated myself 75 times trying to remember a line. And even then I still don't remember. So I have to use cue cards a lot. I love to do lists. The check mark when something is done is so very satisfying. Isn't it? That's kind of like gamifying it. Like I said, it seems everything in life, if you can somehow make a game out of it, or I don't want to say competition, but just maybe a game. If you can make a game out of it, it just motivates you. That's why sometimes, I don't know if anybody's ever tried this, but if you ever want to like declutter a room, this is a pretty amazing secret. You ever want to declutter a room? You just set a timer. You set a timer, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes. It's got to be short increments of time, though, because if you set it for 2 hours, you're still going to dilly-dally. And it is amazing what you can get done, or cleaning the house, or whatever it is, or running. If you set a timer, it just motivates you, and there's something about it that gets your brain to focus, and you're just hustling to get as much done in those 10 minutes. It's one of those magical things that works on your brain like that. So I'm with you. See, I wish I had them. I make lists all the time. And then I make a list of my list and another thing that I do, especially when I was working in corporate America, is before bed every single night, I would take 20 minutes and I would brain dump everything that I needed to do for work, or things that I didn't get done that day. and pull them over into the new list. So sometimes I was making list of the old list, but I love list. I do love list. I'm with you. You were getting beat up by the way. All right, I'm going to have to go watch that after then. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you were getting beat up, but you probably couldn't have made me laugh if you tried, so it'll be good. Was it really? Do you have wind down in Florida? Anytime I've been to Florida, there's never been any wind. Of course, I know you guys have hurricanes, but I mean, in the absence of a hurricane, do you guys actually have wind? So, my daughter lives in Orlando, and then I have friends who live in Palm Coast. So, I go down 2-3 times a year to visit. So, and it does get chilly down there. I will say that. I think when I went in January of last year, it was pretty dang chilly. I didn't bring the correct clothes thinking it wasn't going to be so cold, and it was cold. So, yeah, you guys get some. Oh. So, and to see, I did something again, Scott. Now I'm clicking on the avatar name or whatever against the comments, and they're not popping up on my screen. So what did I do? I did something again. Dang, I got to stop pushing buttons, folks. Yikes, when I did something, because when I push. So now when I push the avatar, it just tells me, do you want to remove this comment? So what did I do? Oh, good grief. You're pretty sure everywhere has wind. Yes, I'm sure, but anytime I've been there, which again is only a few times a year, it's pretty calm and quiet. But of course, I also don't travel during the hurricane season down there. Yes, and Palm Coast is pretty. It is pretty. One of my friends, I have 2 friends in Palm Coast, and one of them lives right across the street from the beach, from some beach, right across from Marineland or something. I know we drive by Marineland, I think it is, or some aquarium when I drive to her house. Yeah, it's very pretty. It's very pretty. And on the other side of her is, I want to say it's a river, but it maybe the intercoastal, is that what you call it? So, yeah, on both sides she has water, which is nice. Sorry, folks, I don't know why I can't put comments on the screen anymore. So anyways, does anybody have any big plans for this week, the last full week before Christmas? Are there any parties, any work parties, any, CL, are you kind of wrapping up all your paintings and whatnot, all your gifts? I know you were spending a lot of time doing that. And Granny, I see her cooking, making, doing something every day. So I know we're all very busy. But does anybody have any gatherings this week? Any work Christmas parties? Nope, just working. So question, Mike, do you always spend the week at work? I heard you say that you drive to and from work or 4 hours one way. That is quite the haul. So do you stay there Monday through Friday and drive home on Fridays for the weekend? Is that how you do it? Work will be slow. Scott, yeah, relaxing week. Again, when I was in corporate America, yeah, the whole month of December for us would be pretty quiet. Um, Somewhere halfway through my time, they would not allow us to accrue our vacation time anymore. So you had to use it by the end of the year. And we got 7 weeks every year. So, and if you didn't take it throughout the year, it's pretty hard to take all that, at the end of the year. But a lot of people would take almost the whole month of December off. And I worked with a lot of folks over in Europe. And I don't know if anybody works with folks from Europe, but their culture is usually in August and December they literally take both of those months off completely. So yes, the whole month of December was traditionally very, very, very quiet, which is nice. It was very nice. So you have a diesel heater coming. Hopefully that will work so I can stay down there. So would you stay down there even on the weekends then, Mike? And you wouldn't drive home? Sorry, the glare in my glasses. It looked pretty cold one day there last week. I felt, as a kid, we grew up in very cold conditions, so I definitely could empathize with you. Maybe you're used to it. I don't know if I could ever get used to it. Mike, I don't know if I told you, but my middle daughter, she's been actually living on the road for the last 4 years. She left in November of 2021, and it was something she wanted to do for quite a long time. She just wanted to travel the country and hike every national park. So she's been doing that. She's been traveling in her van, and she has quite the stories, quite the adventure, and amazing photography. So she's run the Grand Canyon a couple of times, and so yeah. And I don't know how she does it on those cold days, especially. She always goes to the warmer areas in the winter months, like in Arizona. But even in Arizona, right, she loves Sedona, and that's sort of her home base in the winter months. But she said even Sedona gets really cold, so sometimes she'll have to leave Sedona when they're having a cold spell and drive down to Phoenix, where I guess maybe the temperatures are significantly different. Like right now, she's in Phoenix because she said it's kind of chilly out there. But I know she's heading, she won't be home this year for Christmas. She came home at Thanksgiving, but she actually has a job over Christmas. She's house sitting for somebody. So, but yeah, so I definitely can relate because she tells me that it gets kind of cold in her van too. So yes, I would stay down there, come home on Sunday, do laundry and get groceries. So you'd come home Sunday, and then would you turn around and drive back Sunday night? Or would you wait till Monday and drive back? I don't know. When my daughter first told me, and I may have shared this, so drop it in the comments if you want me to be quiet. When my daughter first told me she wanted to go on the road and live in a van, I had never heard of such a thing. Never, ever, ever heard of such a thing. And I'm like, oh my goodness, my daughter wants to be homeless. Literally, that's what went through my head. And I just kept saying, yeah. And I just kept shooing her away and whatever. And then she graduates from college. And she graduated from college in 2019. She got a job. We all know what happened in 2020. And she worked through. In Florida, I don't believe you folks ever got shut down. Up here in Massachusetts, everything got shut down, everything. So she worked through all the shutdowns, but they opened back up in July. And she was a manager of a store. And they had a couple of managers of the store, but when they opened back up in July, it was like 2 or 3 days a week. So they had to let one of the managers go, and because she was the newer manager, they had to let her go. So she did homeschooling through that school year. But then when 20, at the end of the school year in 21, she says, Mom, I'm buying a van and I'm going. So then she would send my husband and I all these vans or campers or whatnot. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I said to my husband, I'm like, we got to find her something that I know she'll at least be safe in. And as soon as I said that, as soon as I made that comment, that night, I'm telling you, it was God, it was the divine, he sent us a van that was halfway built out, and then my husband finished building it out. But it was brand new, and the story behind the van was, an amazing story. So I felt really good about it. It had like barely any miles. I think it had maybe 12,000 miles on it or something. So it worked out. And at least when we sent her off, I knew she'd be safe and whatnot. So you drive back on Monday. Yes, it gets cold in the desert too. She does, I don't think she has a heater. She tells me she doesn't need it. She has solar and she has a generator. So she could have a heater. Does she have a heater? No, I'm trying. Maybe she does, Mike. So she might, now that you say that. She may have gotten herself one. So, but she laughed at me where I was going with the whole story about the van and her doing it. And, I was thinking about her being homeless and everything. I have since told her that when my husband retires, I'm like, I can actually see now where, I don't know, the idea of traveling the country in a van, we got to wait till we no longer have dogs. I can't take my dogs with me. So that'd be about another 5 years or so. But I told her, I said, I can see myself, getting a van and us traveling. So she kind of laughed. So I've sort of come full circle, if you would, from thinking my daughter was going to be homeless to now I kind of like the idea, and maybe I'll join her someday. How does she fund her travels? So during the shutdowns, one of the things she did do was get herself certified as a yoga instructor. So she has a she has a channel for that. She also has, and YouTube. So she has YouTube, she house sits, and she does yoga. And she has a yoga channel, and she has a hiking channel. Yeah, just that. She makes it work. So, and she paid cash for her van, and she had a couple small student loans. She has paid those off. And, I had interviewed her once, and I think she has lived more in her life and has learned more in her life than certainly myself. And she said actually one guy approached her once, and she said he was 70 and said to her, I wish I had done what you're doing, when he was younger. So, do I wish that she would use her college degree? I did. I don't know if I'm there anymore. I think there's more to life than just getting that corporate job. And I'm speaking from experience. So I think there's more to life than getting that corporate job and climbing the ladder. And yeah, there's just more to life. So, and she's living it. So I don't think she's going to retire a millionaire one day, but never know. So she may have an electric blanket. Yeah, she does have solar. So maybe she does have an electric blanket. And she has, I don't know, some type of sleeping bag that she brags about all the time, that she's like, Mom, I actually get hot in the sleeping bag. So I'm like, okay. I don't know if she's just telling me that so I won't worry, but I trust her. And she's actually left the country, and she's hiked in Canada, and she's actually gone down to South America as well. So I wish she wouldn't travel alone, but She does, sometimes she does go with friends. And actually, for the past year, she's had a boyfriend. And so they've been traveling a lot together. So that makes me feel better. Yeah, you're right, Mike. That's why you want to live life before you retire. Yeah, I always think we put things off because we say someday, you know, and when I retire, I want to do this. And sometimes it just, the best laid plans don't always work out the way we think they're going to. So if you have the opportunity now to do it, you got to do it. And one of the things that I have learned, especially over this past year, money doesn't mean anything if you're not, I don't know, if you're not happy and at peace with yourself. But I'm not so foolish to say, money doesn't mean anything. I do understand there's a place for money. You need money to, it's just a tool, right, to help you attain things in life, to be able to live your life, to be able to help others. So I'm not trying to minimize that either. But so yeah, I was, and like I think I told you, Mike, I've seen you on Rob's lives, but never really saw your channel or paid attention to your channel until you were on Scott's last week. And when I saw that you're living in, your camper or whatever, I don't know. I'm very drawn to that. So I think that's kind of amazing. So good for you. Your kids have moved out. I'm sorry, guys, that I can't put the comments. I did something. So now when I click on the comments, nothing happens. All it says is, do you want to remove their comment? So I gotta check in with chat after and figure out what I did. You want your children to have happy and healthy lives. Yeah, right? I mean, isn't that the best way, I guess, to determine if you're a good parent, right? Is if your children go out in the world and, they have confidence and they know how to love and they can take care of themselves. And I mean, what else? And I say all the time, I think my kids are my biggest accomplishments, The only thing that I just wish things were better for my children, meaning just in the whole landscape, if you would. Typically, children, each generation does better than their parents. That's the way it has been throughout history. And this seems to be the first generation, my kids, that aren't doing better than their parents, at least not yet. Maybe things will change. I keep praying. But I think I recently heard, maybe a couple weeks ago, that, I was in my early 20s when I got my first house. They're now saying the average age for a first-time home buyer is 42. That is criminal. That is just, if you choose that you want to rent, that's one thing. But not being able to buy a home because you can't afford it. And, when you think about just the cost of living, I won't go down that rabbit hole, but the cost of living is just insane. And it just keeps getting worse. So I just wish things were a little bit easier, especially with my son and my daughter-in-law. They're expecting their second child in the next few weeks. So it's just, I'm sure everybody remembers being a young parent. Though I keep telling them, I said, this is the easiest days. You have no idea how easy it is right now. If diapers are the only thing you have to buy. So, but they'll figure it out. Everybody always does. And they know they have us, right? Sometimes it takes a village, and they certainly, and I think we talked about this last week, right? Granny has 4 generations living in her house. So she's a perfect role model. Yes, Granny, you said you want your children happy and healthy and have fulfilled lives. Right? That's what we all want for our children. That's the biggest accomplishment. No, there's great sleeping bags out there that will keep you warm in negative temperatures. Yeah, that's what she tells me up and down, that she has one of those. So I'm like, yeah, but still, you got to get in and you got to get out. So, but she says she just, on the real cold days, she'll turn the car on real quick in the morning, and then she's usually out running within the first 20 minutes of her getting up. It's nice to be young. I'm to the point in my life, my kids have all moved out. I don't need to chase the dollar anymore. That's good. That's good. Yes. Because again, I think you get to this point in your life. I'll speak for myself. I get to this point in my life, and like I just said, money isn't everything. But when you're young and you graduate from college and you're getting your first job, and you're chasing the promotions, you're chasing the raises, the bonuses, you're doing all of it. So, but then I guess it takes to get to the other side for you to look back and realize sometimes. You have 5 kids, 4 of them all live in the same house because it's too expensive to live. Yeah, okay, so do all your 5 kids live together, you mean? Is that what you're saying? So, yeah, it is. I believe now times are harder, and it would be rough having a kid. Yeah, I try not to think about it, Mike. I try not to think about my grandchildren, what it's going to be like just 10 years from now. So I still put my faith in the only one I should be putting my faith in. Actually, I just did a video on that, which I'll probably publish soon. So, okay, so this live sort of went in a lot of different directions. And I think last week you guys told me you sort of like when we just riff. But I always like to have some topics planned just in case. You're from Colorado, so 4 of the kids are still there, and my youngest son lives with me, but he's 22. Oh, so my daughter and her boyfriend lived in Colorado last summer. He was finishing up school in Boulder. He has since graduated, and my youngest daughter graduates this year from Penn State, and they plan on moving back to Boulder once she graduates. Of course, that's if she gets, a job out there. His job, right now he's in Washington State, but they will relocate him to Boulder when the time comes. So now she's trying to get a job out in Boulder. She'll start interviewing the beginning of the year. So are you close to Boulder at all? I went to Colorado when I was a young kid. I don't really remember, but they tell me it's amazing. And then obviously my daughter, who tours the country, they just say Colorado's amazing. Just amazing. You were raised in Boulder. My kids live in Longmont, half-hour north of Boulder. So yeah, so if they do move to Boulder, we will be making a trip out there. But one step at a time. She has 1 semester left, 1 more tuition payment. After putting 3 kids through college, I am ecstatic. I cannot wait. I was supposed to go back home for Christmas, but one of my daughters planned a trip out here. So, okay, so you grew up in Colorado. Do you live in Colorado now, or no? Where are you right now, Mike? Oh, you got to go? Well, thank you, Mike. Thank you for joining. Is there anybody else still on? Scott, how can you tell if there's still people on? Is there a place where it says how many people might be on? No, I've been in Minnesota. Okay. Okay, CL. See, at the top of the big E, if you have your mouse over it, it is usually shows in a red box. Oh. Actually, I just moved. Okay. Is it the eyeball? And then the number next to the eyeball, I assume? I don't, a mouse over it, it usually shows it in a red box. I don't have a red box. But I think it's 4 because there's a eyeball. So I'm assuming that so many people are still watching. But, oh, you know what? I forgot last week. Give me 30 seconds, guys. I'm going to go get my book and I'm going to close it out reading the entry for today in my book. I'm going to pull a DG. Hold on. Okay, hopefully you're still there. I was so bummed I forgot to read this last week, but I guess it was good because we're so just enjoying each other's company. So not a bad thing. Okay. So December 14th, right? December 14th. Take a breath and see life for what it truly is. Titled What Life Wants. Life wants to wrap you in its arms, show you why you're here and what it came to teach you. Life is kind, and if you let it, it will guide you along your path in the only way it knows how, always with your best interest in mind. But somewhere along the line, you were taught that life is hard, cruel, and relentless, that it doesn't want to teach but to break you. And you started looking for proof of that, turning life's lessons into evidence of cruelty. And that's a tragedy, because it's made you look at life with a wary eye instead of an open heart. And that, more than anything, may be what's keeping you from the simple, joyful life you long for. So today, take a breath, see life for what it truly is, an invitation for your heart to play, dance, and sing, for your mind to learn and grow, and for your soul to take it all in, turning every moment into the wisdom that will guide you toward the happiness you were born to experience. Ask yourself this: what if life is here to love you, guide you, and teach you, and always has been? It's always so appropriate. So that was December 14th. All right, folks, it's right at 8 o'clock. I've loved having you all here tonight. Thank you so much. I so appreciate your support, and from the bottom of my heart, you guys mean the world to me. You truly, truly do. I hope you have an amazing week, and I know I will see you throughout the week on these different lives. Bye, guys. You have a great night.